The Enfield haunting, the family nobody believed. True, inspired horror story. You ever heard those stories where someone says, "We didn't believe it until it happened to us"? Yeah, this one right here, it's exactly that. A small family, a quiet neighborhood, and something that crawled its way right into their home and never truly left. Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the Johnson family from Enfield, Illinois, back in 1978. Real people, real police reports, real scars left behind. This ain't some Hollywood remake. This is one of those stories folks around here still don't talk about after dark. It started with a bargain. You know how small towns are? Houses go on sale for dirt cheap, and everyone says it's bad plumbing or foundation issues. That's what Martha Johnson thought when she and her two kids, Tommy, 10, and Sarah, 14, moved into that creaky white-painted house on Maple Street. Rent was cheap, real cheap, too cheap. The realtor never looked her in the eye when he handed her the keys, just said, "You'll love the space, lots of character." And man, he wasn't lying. That house had character, all right. The kind that watches you sleep. First night, everything was fine. Second night, around 3:10 a.m., knock, knock, knock. Not from the front door, not from the back either. It came from inside the walls. Tommy thought it was rats, Martha thought it was pipes, but the dog, Rex, lost his mind, teeth out, ears up, growling like he saw something. And when Martha opened Tommy's closet door, the smell hit first, like damp earth. And under the flickering light, she swore she saw finger marks inside the wood paneling. Not scratches, finger marks. Like something had dug its way out. By the end of the week, nobody in that house slept right. Sarah started saying she heard whispering in her room at night. She said it sounded like someone reading names over and over. Names that weren't theirs. At first, her mom thought she was just scared, new house, new town. But then she recorded it on her old cassette player. When she played it back, you could hear it, clear as day. A man's voice, deep and cracked, whispering, "Don't let them leave." The tape was sent to a local priest. He listened once, then told her to burn it. Now here's where shit got real. One evening, Sarah was watching TV and the living room lights started flickering. She looked toward the hallway, and there it was. Tall, black silhouette, no face, no eyes, just standing there like it was listening. She screamed. Tommy came running, but when he turned the corner, nothing, except a trail of wet footprints leading straight to the basement door. And that door? It was nailed shut when they moved in. Curiosity's a dangerous thing, man. Martha pried the nails off that door, thinking maybe it was just some old maintenance room. What she found down there looked like a makeshift altar. Animal bones, burnt candles, symbols carved into the dirt floor. And written on the wall in faded red paint, "He was never buried." Police came, said it was probably just the previous owner messing around. They filed a report, but no one followed up. The cops didn't even stay 5 minutes. One of them said his chest got tight the moment he stepped in. After that night, Tommy changed. He stopped talking much, started sleepwalking. Once, Martha found him outside in the backyard at 2 a.m., digging with his bare hands. And when she asked him what he was doing, he looked at her with this empty stare and said, "He told me to dig, said he's cold down there." She dragged him inside, locked the doors, but the digging didn't stop. Next morning, there were fresh holes in the yard, 6 of them, all in a perfect circle. Neighbors started noticing weird stuff too. Lights flickering in the Johnson house when no one was home, voices coming through their radios, even when unplugged. And one mailman swore he saw a figure in the upstairs window while everyone was out. A tall man, just staring. That's when Martha called for help. Local pastor, paranormal investigators, even the sheriff's office. But every single one of them refused to go inside after sunset. They said the house felt alive. October 23rd, 1978. A night folks in Enfield still whisper about. Storm rolled in, lightning, heavy rain, thunder that shook the walls. And around midnight, Sarah's screams split through the house. Martha ran upstairs and froze. Sarah was pinned against the wall, lifted off the ground, choking. Tommy stood in the corner, eyes rolled white, mumbling, "He's here, he's here." When Martha grabbed her daughter, Sarah dropped to the floor, gasping, clawing at her neck. And on her skin, finger marks, like someone had strangled her with hands made of ash. Martha called the police again. They showed up minutes later. This time, they did come inside. The officers saw things they could never explain. Objects moving, doors slamming, a deep growl echoing from the basement. And one of them, Officer Dan Wilson, switched on his recorder. You can still find that audio today if you dig deep enough. You can hear him say, "Dispatch, I don't know what's happening, but something..." Then there's a scream, a man scream, and the tape ends. Next morning, the police returned with backup. The Johnson family was gone. All that was left were their clothes scattered across the living room, and those same 6 holes in the yard. They were filled in, perfectly leveled, as if nothing had ever been dug. Weeks later, the house burned down in a fire that started from the basement. No cause ever found. But the strangest part? When investigators went through the ashes, they found a 7th hole right in the center. Inside it, a small human skull. And a note. The note said, "He was never buried because he was never dead." You ever notice how some stories just don't end? They just wait? Maybe that's what happened in that Enfield house. Or maybe, whoever he was, he finally found his way out. If you ever drive through southern Illinois and see a small empty lot with 6 stones around it, don't stop. Don't stare. And for God's sake, don't dig. It says Part 2, The Enfield Haunting, The Thing That Followed. You remember how the Johnson family disappeared, right? No bodies, no goodbye, just silence and smoke. Well, 6 months after that house burned down, something else started happening. About 50 miles south, a small town called El Dorado, Illinois. A family of 4, Rick and Linda Harper, and their kids Chloe, 16, and Evan, 11. They rented this cute 2-story farmhouse on the edge of town. Old, but solid. They said the land was part of an old mining property, but nobody really thought about that. Until one night, when Evan started digging in the yard. Rick was a mechanic, hardworking, blue-collar, honest guy. Linda worked at a diner. They didn't have much, but they wanted peace and space for their kids. On the first day, the neighbors were friendly, except one old lady across the street, Mrs. Darnell. When Linda introduced herself, the woman just said, "You folks rented the house on Maple Lane?" Linda nodded. "Then I'll pray for y'all," and walked away. Linda laughed it off, but she shouldn't have. A few weeks in, Evan started having nightmares. He told his mom about a man calling from the ground. Said he heard it through the vent at night, like someone whispering from under the floor. Then one morning, Linda found him outside at dawn, barefoot, mud all over his pajamas. And right there in the middle of the yard, he had dug a small hole about a foot deep. When she asked him why, he said, "He told me to." He said he's cold again. Linda freaked out, dragged him inside, locked the door. But when Rick came home, he said the weirdest thing. He'd filled the hole up before going to work, and now it was open again, like someone had dug it back out. About a week later, Chloe, the daughter, started hearing someone walking in the attic. Rick checked, found nothing but dust and mousetraps. But that night, she recorded it on her phone. When she played it back the next day, it wasn't footsteps anymore. It was a voice, low, broken, whispering, "Don't let them leave." The same words from the Johnson case, though the Harpers didn't know that. Linda took the phone to the sheriff's office. Sheriff looked pale when he heard it. Said, "Where'd you hear that before?" She said, "In our attic." He took a deep breath and said, "You're not the first family to call about that." Then he told her about the Johnson house, burned down months earlier. 6 holes in the yard, 1 extra in the center. Same whispers, same words. Linda didn't sleep that night. Who could? Things escalated fast. Doors slamming by themselves, cold spots moving through the house like invisible fog. And Chloe, she swore she saw a tall black figure standing behind her in the bathroom mirror. When she turned, nothing. But her reflection stayed frozen for 3 full seconds. Rick finally called a local pastor, Father Monroe. He'd heard about the Enfield case, said he didn't believe in ghosts, just evil energy. He came with a Bible, some holy water, and a bad sense of humor. The minute he stepped into the house, his nose started bleeding. He laughed it off. "Dry air," he said. But when he went upstairs, he stopped dead at the top of the steps. Because written on the wall, in what looked like rust, was the name Tommy, and below it a handprint, small, child-sized. Father Monroe left the house within 5 minutes, never came back. Rick decided to dig into the home's history. Found out the house was built on top of an old mine shaft, a mine that collapsed in 1913. 13 workers trapped underground. Bodies never recovered. One of the men listed was Thomas Johnson. Same last name as the first family, same area, same damn whisper. He was never buried. That night, Linda woke up to her son whispering in the dark. She thought he was praying until she realized he wasn't using any words she knew.
The sound was like stone grinding. When she turned on the lamp, his eyes were wide open, completely black. He turned his head slowly and said, "He remembers you." Then all the lights in the house went out. The next morning, 6 holes appeared in their yard, perfect circle, same size, same pattern as the old Enfield case. Rick tried to fill them up, but his shovel snapped like it hit concrete. Neighbors said they saw shadows moving in daylight, crawling along the walls of the house. Even Mrs. Darnell moved out that week, left a note in their mailbox. "He's not gone. He's looking for the 7th. Desperate, Linda found a recording of the old Johnson police tape, the one that ended with the scream. She played it at night, hoping to find answers, but halfway through the static, she heard something new. A child's voice whispering over the officer's last words, "Mommy, I'm cold." She froze. That voice wasn't on the original recording. And she knew that voice. It was her son, Evan. 2 days later, the Harpers packed everything to leave. They made it halfway down the driveway before the car died. Smoke started pouring from the hood, and behind them, the house lights flickered on one by one, even though the power was cut. Then the front door burst open, and there he was. Tall, black, hollow eyes. The shadow. It started walking towards them, slow, deliberate. Rick shouted, "Get in the truck!" But the truck wouldn't start. When he looked back, Linda and the kids were gone. All that was left was smoke. By the time the sheriff got there, the entire house was on fire. No remains found, but in the ashes, they found something strange. A set of child-sized handprints burned into the floorboards, and in the middle of the yard, a new hole, the 7th one. Years later, that same sheriff wrote a private letter to the state office before retiring. It was never meant to be public, but it leaked online in the 90s. In that letter, he said, "We found something under the 7th hole, about 6 feet down. A wooden box burned but sealed tight. Inside, a small human skull and a note. The note said, 'He was never buried because he was never dead.'" Now here's where it gets real messed up. Forensic records later showed that the Johnson boy, Tommy, was never officially registered in the school system. No birth certificate, no hospital record, nothing. It's like he never existed. So who was the kid Martha Johnson claimed was her son? And how the hell did his name appear on a wall 50 miles away, in blood that wasn't human? No one ever found the answer. But every year, on the same night both houses burned, locals say the ground shakes near the old mine, and if you stand real still, you can hear that same whisper under your feet. Don't let them leave. They tore both houses down, built a new road right over the land. People drive through it every day. No clue what's buried beneath. But every now and then, a driver reports something weird. Car stalls for no damn reason. Radio cuts to static. And through that static, a child's voice says, "Mommy, I'm cold." So next time you're driving down Route 141 in southern Illinois, and your engine sputters for no damn reason, don't get out. Don't look back. And whatever you do, don't dig. He was never buried.